I don't even know what to say other than this guest is just beyond beyond. It's Cathy Heller, and I knew before I met her, I just had a feeling. But I love and adore this human. So I'm excited to share the conversation with you. I love where it goes. It's meanders around and really, really goes deep on what is causing people to not have that major success. And coming from someone who, like her, is so successful, I think it is really going to give you kind of a secret window into how did it work for her and how could it possibly work for you. So yeah, thanks for listening. I want to take a minute to talk to you about the SI Club, because if this podcast resonates, you are going to love it. It is the place where you get to go deeper on money energetics, and you also get to pair that with real world investing strategy. So what you get inside of the club is you get access to the SI method, which is a non-linear frequency-based approach that allows you to learn how to invest and also bring in income in an effortless way. So increasing your income and expanding it through investing. You get a monthly call with me. You get a private community that's all spiritually based individuals building wealth. You get access to the SI Drop into Certainty. It's the new AI tool. And so you can ask, any time of day, you can ask that a question and sort of build your own way. And if you're on the annual membership, then you get access to my stock list, my full personal stock list. So this is definitely a way for you to go to the next level. And you can find the link at thespiritualinvestor.com, or you can find it here in the show notes. Okay, see you soon. Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Investor Podcast. I have Cathy Heller with me, and to be honest, you guys almost didn't even get her because we've been sitting here talking, and she's magnificent. I should whisper it. She's magnificent. She is incredible. You talk about like energy on the frequency of just all the language, all the understanding, all the wisdom, the depth, and bringing a realness to it that it's unbelievable. So thank you so much for being here.
I mean, you have such delicious energy, and you're also equally so beautiful that I'm sitting here and I'm like, I think that this is what we forget. It's our energy, our presence is our biggest offer to the world. It's the most incredible gift we give people. I was telling my ex, he was talking about my kids and wanting to be a better dad, which he's now really, his eyes are open to how he can be more present with them. And I said, he's like, what do you think they want to do? Play volleyball, go to Disneyland? I'm like, they want you. That's what anybody wants. We want to feel the gift of the other person giving of themselves, their full wholeness, their attention, their presence. And when someone walks in the room with beautiful energy, it's such a gift, and you have such beautiful energy.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you so much. Yeah. What would you say about, even just talking about that, which I'm in such appreciation. What would you say about when we sort of get knocked off base with that, right? When we go into I know with me, sometimes will come up is I'll get like an anxious feeling, or I'll sort of go back into, I can feel that it's like an old story or something. Cause I know one of the things that you said something about like joy is actually like is like part of feeling bad. Sometimes we feel bad when we feel joy because it's like our body just can't even like take it, because like, to be honest, sometimes that what I get into is I get into like I don't allow myself to be anxious and just be, but in my mind I know it's like the caterpillar coming out of the cocoon. You have to go through it, but I still resist it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you just said at least like 9 really important things. And I just want to see if we can peel some of it apart. First of all, you have amazing awareness, right? You've been on this path a long time, sharing it, learning it, teaching it, learning it, teaching it. But let's just sort of set the table for a second. Okay, so when we're born, we are almost in like a hypnotic state, and we know, I'm just repeating what we know, that for the first, we're sponges and we are absorbing our parents' stories and their parents' stories, which they are modeling, and their parents modeled their parents' stories. So it's like we're just absorbing a lot of filters in which to then process the world, right? So we go from having the potential to see reality as it is with a capital R, actual reality, to seeing subjective reality and feeling, more importantly, feeling subjective reality, meaning we go through those years of starting to learn that, oh, love is not unconditional, right? If I'm thin, I get love. If I get straight A's, I get love. If I don't speak up and I'm pleasing, I get love, right? And we start to make these connections and we start to fire and wire together these feelings inside that feel true. And so certain things begin to feel out of bounds, off limits. And we start to build these cages for ourselves of where safety lives and where safety doesn't, because at the end of the day, we all want to belong to our tribe. And so we don't want to not belong. So we would rather choose inauthenticity as long as we can belong. So now we're being inauthentic, but we belong. Or now we're being, somebody we don't want to be. We're wearing a mask. We're playing some part, but we're belonging at least, and then we get to the age of like 25 or 39 or whatever it is. And we're like, wait a minute, something's wrong. What's wrong? What's wrong is there's the authentic you, and then there's the version of you that learned whatever story isn't true, but it felt true in your family of origin around who you need to be, right? And you start realizing that there is something beyond the reef. It's like Moana in that Disney movie. She's like, I want to go beyond this island. They're all like, don't leave the island. Nobody survives if they go out there. And she's like, but I know I don't want to just stay on this island. And everyone on the island is like, why do you think there's something better than, you think you're better than us to leave the island, right? And that's the thing, is like, then people around you are like, who are you to buy a different story? This story this is survival, right? You have to believe this story. So the people who go beyond the reef, whether it's Maya Angelou or Steven Spielberg or Lady Gaga, or they go beyond the reef, they set down the story that they were told to subscribe to, and they start to go beyond it. But for each of us, when we go beyond the initial program, it's so scary. It feels like death. It feels terrifying. It feels terrifying, right? And I was just with my kids watching the Michael Jackson movie in the theaters, and my kids don't even know who Michael Jackson was. I mean, he passed away many years before they were ever born.
Yeah.
But they still appreciated the music in the movie. And it's amazing to watch that he not only is such a master of manifestation, because he was writing down every day, I will be impacting the world. I'll be the greatest of all time. I'll sell the most. He was writing it down every single day, putting it as sticky notes on his mirror, writing it in his journal. But also, even when he was on top of the world, he couldn't still face his father. His father was abusing him, hitting him, the worst monster. And even when he was 24, he was still living at home when the Thriller record came out, because he didn't have the courage. It felt like life or death. He could do everything. He could play Wembley Stadium. He could sell the most records of all time, but he couldn't look his father in the face and say, enough. Because in that story, like the story he was born with, you just can't do that. And it took years. It was still 5 more years past that till he left, living under an abusive, sort of figure. So it can make all the logical sense in the world why we should dream a bigger dream, or have a better relationship, or allow ourselves to thrive and make more money, or whatever it is. But if it feels like it goes beyond, if it's unfamiliar, right? If it's unfamiliar to the story we were given, then our 8-year-old self doesn't know the difference between actual life and death, and it feels terrifying. And anything that the brain doesn't have a record of, anything unfamiliar, like my daughter is leaving for sleepaway camp the day after tomorrow. And she's like terrified. And I said, but that makes sense because it's unfamiliar. I know, because I went to sleepaway camp. Your older sister goes, you are going to have the best time. Like, yes, there's a chance you might not like it, which if you don't, after a week, you could come home. but I think you're going to have the best time. But it makes sense that it's unfamiliar. So even when you're falling in love, if it's like too good to be, you're like, this is unfamiliar. Maybe I should sabotage it. Right. And somebody
Yes.
offers you an amazing experience, a big opportunity to write a book, or gives you a big advance on something. You're like, who am I to have this? And you get scared because it's going beyond, you don't have a reference point for it. So if there's no reference point, anything the body doesn't have a record of, it says to you, this is dangerous, when it's not dangerous. Like my daughter this morning, she's like peeling a lychee. And I've had like a lychee once in a while, like in a drink, right?
Yeah.
But I've never seen someone peel a lychee. I just never seen that. So this morning, my 9-year-old's like, Mom, do you want one of these? I go, I don't know. What is that? She goes, it's a lychee. I go, oh, I didn't realize that's the shell of a lychee. So she's like, do you want to try it? I was like, sure. And I remember right before I tried it, I wasn't sure if I was going to like it. Of course I like it, but it was just a new experience, right? So before you do something new, your body tries to psych you out and say, this is dangerous. You shouldn't do it. Don't ride Thunder Mountain. Don't take a trip to Paris. Don't, kiss the person who you actually really are attracted to when you've always were with somebody that you weren't attracted. Like your body doesn't have a reference point. So it's wild.
God, this is so great. And what it brings up is like going back to that feeling of anxiety, right? Which we all know what that feels like. It's like what is bringing up is the anxiety an indicator of the resistance, or is anxiety the feeling of the expansion? And it's like we get to choose the truth, because if I choose that the anxiety is, oh my God, this is expansion, because I think that's what you're saying is like it's like you have to get the container to be bigger. And you even talk about that. You've used the example of a plant, and I think I can't remember how you phrased it, but you said something in one of your videos about like um, use the light bulb, but you talked about also that we actually, what did you say for something about, oh, here it is. You have to make your nervous system become familiar with what you want to get what you want. And so, like, it's almost like if I were to look at it the way that you said it, and then I sort of bring it into my own world, what it could say to me is if I have to become familiar with what I want, then the only way to become familiar is to go through the getting taken down the river, which is hard because we tell ourselves it's wrong. It could hurt other people's feelings. It could, it looks all messy, right? But if I see that as part of the process, then I will stop trying to not include that in my life. Like, I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm in the best relationship of my entire life, is because the first thing I did is I said, this is going to be my most responsible relationship, meaning responsibility comes from me. The second thing is everything that goes on over there, I'm going to include it. And what I mean by include it is not like I like everything. It means I include it because this is what I've chosen. And that means that we work it out. That means that that you can work it out in communication or something like that. But then it goes, of course you get into areas where, you're growing out of that cocoon, right? And it happens in relationships. It's funny because I think that people sometimes probably think if you get into the best relationship of your life, you're not going to have this. Well, what I've experienced is, yes, you do. You still have that cocoon effect. It just, you can clearly see it's not the relationship. You can clearly see it's you. So what happens is the personal growth inside of a healthy relationship carries something similar, except for there's an isolation factor where I'm like, it's so clean for me to see, oh no, Elizabeth, that's you when you were 9 years old, And because I made a promise to myself, responsibility, it causes me to constantly look over here. But then when I get into anxiety, I'm like, ugh, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this,
Yeah, first of all, it's so vulnerable and
It
generous for you
is.
to share all of that. And I want to comment on the beginning and the end of what you said. The beginning of what you said, you asked a really beautiful question. You said, so is anxiety really indicating an expansion, or is it something that it's like more of a dark side, And so thank you for listening to all these videos, you're like, you said this, but you also, that's so sweet. One of the main concepts that I teach in different metaphors is this idea that God is always pouring light into the world. It's only light, right? That all there was initially, right? The Big Bang has finally, that the science has caught up with what we knew Kabbalistically. Like we knew that there was just this, in Hebrew, it's called the Ein Sof, the endless light, right? And then there was a Big Bang of that light, and it shattered into millions of pieces. And God said, let there be light, and let there be this, and let there be that, right? And it's interesting, we're talking about speech. We create our world through speech, right? And that's the way we were told that God created the world, was through speaking it into existence, which is also an interesting lesson, right? To speak it into existence. The word spelling comes from the word spells, because our words are casting spells. But the point of it is the light is always pouring in the world. So what does it mean? It means, and I'm repeating myself because you've heard me say this, but for your audience to help them connect the dots on what we were talking about, if the electricity is always pouring through, right, then we have to have the vessel to hold the circuit. The circuit has to be able to hold that charge. And so I tell this story in my book that during COVID, I felt so bad that my kids had to be in the house and they missed so many fun things because we were in the house so much. So I decided to get like crazy amounts of Christmas lights. And I called this guy and he's like, okay, we're going to go get all the blow ups and all the things. It's going to be Clark Griswold, Christmas Vacation craziness. And my ex at the time said to me, he's like, you're never going to be able to have all those lights on the house. And I kept thinking, he's so negative. He's so negative. Why is he saying that? But he's very practical. And I'm very, I very much live in the everything's possible. So we go after all the lights, every tree, the entire roof line. There's blow-ups, there's all the reindeer, everything. Okay, we go to plug it in, and it was on for like 6 seconds, and then it goes off. So then we're trying to fix it, and then we realize the fridge is off inside, the house lights are off inside, the computers are all off, and we can't function. What's going on? So the electrician takes me over to the breaker, and he says, okay, so if we add up all the lights and all the things, this one's 100 watts, this one's 500 watts. He added it all up. He's like, you just don't have enough watts on the breaker. So if you think about that, it's a perfect metaphor, because each of us, what do we want? More light, a better relationship, more abundance, more opportunity, more friendships, more beautiful vacations, more ways to download ideas, more books to write, more flow state. We want it. We want to be in flow. We want to be in service. We want to be in purpose. We want to be in connection. We want to be moving through the world, just enjoying all the people, the foods, the ways we could lift someone up, the ways we could receive, all of it. Is the vessel available for more light? And so we might experience it as the worst thing. Like, let's say you're in you're working somewhere, and you've known in the back of your mind for like 9 months that like, you don't really like it anymore and you've outgrown it, but you don't have the courage to leave, or you don't have the courage to speak up, or whatever it is. Next thing you know, let's say you get fired and you're like, it's such a bad week. I got fired, or something happens, even like you just get into a fight with someone at work, or someone doesn't see you, or you get told that you have to redo the work, or whatever it is. And you're thinking all of this is bad, when really it's begging you to build a bigger vessel so that you could actually receive the thing that you really want. You'd have to have a different vessel that could actually receive it. If you show up to God and say, fill this, and you bring a thimble, he'll fill a thimble. If you say, fill this, and you bring a bucket, he'll fill a bucket. If you say, fill this, and it's an ocean, he'll fill the ocean. Most people, their nervous system, and this is more of what you were saying towards the middle of what you just said, our nervous systems can't handle it. How many times have you been out with someone, a friend of yours, and she's like, let me pay for lunch. And you're like, no, I got this. It's so uncomfortable. Why? This is someone you love. You've been friends since high school. Let her pay. No. It's the receiving. What if you're in a relationship and someone is just really holding space for you? Can you receive that? My favorite movie is Good Will Hunting. I just showed it to my almost 15-year-old. It's incredible. The writing, the acting, the storyline, it's incredible. It doesn't miss a thing. There's romance, there's comedy, there's incredible transformation. So there's a scene where Robin Williams goes to hug Matt Damon, and Matt Damon grew up abused, and Robin Williams is very, very genuine and wants to give him a hug. And he's like, don't do, and Matt Damon's character like, don't touch me. Don't do that. And he gets so angry. He's like, do not do that. Not you. Why would you do that? And eventually he falls into his arms and cries and lets him touch him. And he realizes this kid doesn't feel safe to receive this love. He's never had it. It's like, when I was dating my first boyfriend in college, having gone through all this crap with my parents' divorce and who my dad was, and he eventually really did a lot of like repentance for his life and really became so much more of himself. But he went through a really dark time, cheating, unethical, sort of abandoning, not good. And then I meet my boyfriend in college who's really kind and sweet, who had like only the best. I was with him for 3 years. I remember going to a therapist in college, in Tallahassee, one of these little canopy roads. I went to school at Florida State, and this little Southern sweet lady, and she said to me, if you had third-degree burns all over your body, what would feel better, if I held you really tight or I stood 6 feet away? She said, you have third-degree burns, and he wants to hold you, and it doesn't feel good right now. So we're going to teach him that this isn't about him, but this is about you. It makes me cry. It's such a beautiful metaphor. And she's like, you're learning to trust and to repattern what this can be. And that it doesn't mean all of a sudden you're going to lose yourself. Or, he used to write me, he was so sweet. In the end, we weren't meant to be together because I ended it, but it was such a good relationship for me. It was so healthy and nice and good. And we actually went to Knoxville. We went to see Dave Matthews. We drove to Tennessee. Anyway, the point of it is we're all continuously expanding our vessel. And the reason why most people who win the lottery lose all that money is they don't have the vessel to hold it. So the question you asked is like, when these things come up, are they bad? Or is it an invitation to expand? It's an invitation to expand, right? I know for me, one of the things I'm working on is growing up in my family of origin, I learned to be a pleaser and just go along and be sweet and be quiet, whatever. So for me, I often, before I even know what I actually feel, I'll start to feel anxious or stressed. And it's usually because I'm not speaking my truth. And then I'm feeling guilty, or I'm over functioning or overextending or saying yes when I really meant to say, oh no, that doesn't work for me. And so that feeling of discomfort is actually a good thing, because it's wanting to get my attention to say, oh, I'm going to take care of the fact that I'm just going to be honest right now, whether or not somebody's feelings are hurt or not. I'm just going to say, thank you so much for this, but this is my preference. This is what I actually would prefer, or this is what really does work for me. This is what I'm available for. And I'm sure you've seen this too. You alluded to it before. I have found that every time I finally speak what's true for me from a loving place of this is just what's my truth, it's always the best thing for the other person too. It opens up worlds for the other person.
Yes, it does. I can't believe you're even bringing this up, and I can believe it, because I've just been thinking about this exact thing that you're talking about the reciprocal energy of all of this. And we all know that we're creating our worlds. Like, this is just us. This is a game. This is me and me. Sometimes I'll just come back to mine, just like, this is me and me, and just repeat it, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, but I've been thinking about what you're talking about is so key. It's just because you're talking about people pleasing. In my world, I call it, like, sometimes what I do is I get into accommodating, which is the same thing effectively, right? What I realized is when I'm accommodating, I can tell myself, oh, I'm just being kind and nice and I'm giving, and I don't need that anyways. So I'll just do this for you and do this for you and do this for you and do this for you. Well, that to a certain degree is fine, and the world kind of works on that. But I think what's invisible is that at some point we accommodate beyond what we really want to do. Yeah. And I think it's hard to see what that point is. And I think when we do that, it is so it is so unconscious. But I think what happens is we unconsciously create an energetic IOU. And so then what happens is 6 months later or 3 weeks later or whatever, an indirectly related event will come back where I was like, but I wanted to do that. I wanted to be included in that, but I wanted, and you know what? It's in that moment, it is not me, Cathy. And I can feel that it's not me because the anxiety, everything's telling me, I know in my mind, I'm like, Elizabeth, this is not you, right? So what happens is I'm operating, though, as the unconscious entity who's trying to fulfill that IOU that I don't even understand. It's coming from childhood, and there's this representation of it in front of me right now. And then what will happen is I will get out of that and I'll go, oh, well, I created that without knowing it. So therefore I have to forgive myself too. And I have to ask for forgiveness because we don't go into these things trying to be unkind. But then what happens is I get the opportunity to go, just what you said. If I had just spoken up,
Yeah.
but you know what happens is that I can speak up. I can say what I want easily when I am sort of awake or in more of a conscious state. I mean, but when I get into that, where I have gone into that phase, part of me is like, I don't want to say it because I don't want to speak from that place. And part of me is like, well, you get shut down.
First of all, I love that concept of an energetic IOU. I love that. I said this to you earlier about something else, but that is a book. That is so powerful. I really get that. I love metaphors because sometimes certain metaphors make it make sense. Like I think what we were talking about with the light, and sometimes I go further with that and I'll say some light bulbs have 45 watts, some have 75 watts. They could only hold so much. And so if the light bulb were to burst, you would think, oh, there's something wrong. It's like, no, there's just more light that wants to come through. We need a bigger vessel, right? And so for each of us, we need a bigger instrument. We need an instrument that is, it's interesting when you talk about what you said about speaking up and not accommodating. I often say when it comes to money, I'm just using money as an example. People think that they have, and you worked in this field for a long time. You kind of are comfortable with that world and that language and that it's all consciousness. It's just money is really consciousness. It's a reflection of energy and consciousness in so many ways. But when people talk about money, it's not a block that they don't, it's usually, they don't have a resistance to money. It's a resistance to power. Meaning, I'm using money as an easy example because it's something that everyone thinks about a little bit all the time. And for you to think about the version of you that would have, let's say you would love to see $29 million drop into your account, or just to be making, $60,000 a month, whatever your numbers are, it doesn't matter. That version of you has to be comfortable being in your power. And what does that mean? It means not accommodating. It means being decisive. It means allowing people to project or not, and it doesn't matter. Like there's a vessel that holds that, and that vessel is in integrity with itself. And if you think about most people who are over accommodating, are not making the money they want to make. It's part of it. They're not, also forget the money. I'll switch gears in case money doesn't feel like it resonates as much. Most people who are over accommodating don't feel reciprocity in their relationships.
That's right.
Yeah. I know so many women who are volunteering at church, hosting Thanksgiving. Mother-in-law says, what can I bring? Nothing. Don't worry about it. Don't bring anything at all. Next thing you know, her nervous system is a wreck. She's completely depleted. She never takes time for herself. She's on the phone till 11 o'clock, helping a friend with her son. She's doing this, she's doing that. And then she turns 68 and she gets diagnosed with something and everyone goes, oh my gosh, she's just the nicest person. It's like, she was completely malnourished. Like she took no time for herself. She received nothing. So now that's Interesting. Why? Because on some level, this is how insidious this is. People like that feel it's wrong to ask for reciprocity, or it doesn't, you have to accommodate. Accommodating and love go together. If you're not accommodating, you won't be loved.
That's
Or
exactly right.
you'd be a bad person if you, I realized for myself when I ended my relationship, my marriage was 16 years. I had been gaslighting myself as if it was my job. I mean, I was so good at gaslighting myself. Like I would feel something, I would bring it up. It would not come to fruition what I said I needed or whatever. And I'd be like, it must be me. It must be me. Right. Then I would keep finding myself over compensating for everything all the time. And then years go by. And then now I look back and say, had I known that I'm not saying this because it's a nice fictional, wrap it up with a bow story to tell. I'm saying it because it's the truth. My children are better today because we split up. The therapist says, you should have done that 6 years earlier for their sake. In fact, she says, you owe them an apology because you showed them that kind of conversation is okay. That kind of language is okay. Like he was checked out. He's now having to repair that. So do you see what I'm saying? That this is so important, this conversation, because one of the conversations that's more common, there's a zillion podcast episodes about achieving success, hacking how you can be successful, how you can make money in the market, how you can win in relationships, all of that stuff. But if you're not talking about the under the vessel part of it, the being able to hold it, you could apply all of these techniques and tactics, right? Which, by the way, are not that complicated, right? So many people have made good decisions enough times that we could reverse engineer. It's not that part. It's why isn't it happening? Because the person is repelling it. I mean, I'm sure you have people in your life who, I can think of one person I won't name, who is awesome and talented and cute and smart and loving, always single, never in a relationship. She would be great in a relationship, but would she? Well, the reason she's not in it is because as soon as somebody steps into the picture, it's over before it begins, because there's no vessel to receive it. The unworthiness wound is so high that this person will reject the other person before they reject her, or this person will think that in order to be worthy of the relationship, she has to turn into like basically a coach and a teacher and a fixer, rather than I'll just walk beside you and let's just figure this out together, right? You don't want your partner is not your therapist. Although I want to say one other thing, which is in Hebrew, the word for soulmate in the Bible, like you go back biblically, what it says about soulmates, Adam and Eve and soulmates, it says Ezer Kenegdo, which means helper opposite you, which means a soulmate is the person who helps you step into your potential, which means it's almost like, think about someone who's great at playing chess against you. This is not the person who's going to let you win. This is the person who's going to make the best moves.
Right.
You're almost like, oh my God, right? I said to my kids, we took them to see the Clippers play the Lakers. And I lived in LA for 23 years, and I can't believe that the Clippers are now this good that they play the Lakers. Like, you know, it used to just be the Lakers. I'm not even that into sports, but it's kind of cool to see that happen in these two teams. So LeBron is amazing to watch. I mean, he's like a phenomenon, and he's on the Lakers now. And he's playing this, you know, the Clippers in this game. And I couldn't believe how good the Clippers were. The Lakers still won. But the Clippers, it was like they were so good. My point is, at the end of the game, LeBron goes over to the guy who was like the lead player on the Clippers. I don't know his name. And he goes, get over here. And he kissed him on the forehead. And he goes, that was a good game. And we were in like the third row. And I turned to my daughter and I started crying. And she goes, why are you crying? I go, because that moment is what I want you to take away. He's grateful for that game. He wants them to play well. He wants them to play well. Why? It makes him a better player. If you're LeBron, why do you want to play against some dumb player? It's not fun. you don't get anything out of it if you're not stretched, if you're not growing, right? So a soulmate, being with your soulmate does not mean it's a walk in the park. You never have to face anything. It's the complete opposite. Your soulmate, it's like those two on the court. He kissed him on the forehead. He's not angry at him. He's thanking him. They're not mean to each other, but they're bringing everything they've got to pull out of the other person even more potential. That's what a soulmate does. Yes. So that's what it means. And so we watch these rom-coms with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, and I'm so dated, that's like 30 years ago, but we watch these romantic comedies with, now it would be like Ryan Gosling and whoever. And it's a lie, because the point of a soulmate is not to say like, cool, let's just, just keep it how it is.
Every night and just like, live the fantasy life. No, you're right. Right.
But there is supposed to be so much shared language that you feel so seen and so understood. And then because there's that feeling of so seen and so safe and so understood, of course you can then play chess against each other and like pull out all the stops. That's the idea, right? It's both, right? It's not supposed to feel bad and be abusive. Like that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that the person becomes so much of a helpmate in your life that they help you to achieve more of your potential. And therefore it will stretch you. And that's a good thing. Why would you not want to grow?
Mm-hmm. God, you're exactly right. And I think you even said something one time. You said like in the safety, actually this can come even more so, right? And that's exactly right. Like you get a safe environment and the things come up that are really, really buried. It's almost like they have the safety to come to the surface to a certain degree. And what's coming up in the safety of a relationship is mind blowing to me. And it's my job to be the one who can see that I call it like, it's just a state of allowing. It's increasing my state of allowing. And here's what it freaking looks like. And
it's so sexy to me though. I mean, that is like such a turn on. It's like to be able to like have those conversations that in one conversation you literally change the way a person sees the world or reality. It's just incredibly powerful to be with someone who can play chess with you in a way where you can unwind things just in a conversation, which is why I love podcasts, by the way, because every single day we think we're looking for the next Range Rover. No, we're not. What we're looking for is to be expanded. What we're looking for is to see through a wider lens. And when that happens in a conversation, you just feel oxygen run through your body. You're like, oh my God, I wish I could have that happen over and over again. And that's the power of amazing relationships. And not like it's supposed to be that way every single second, but the fact that you can, uncover that, it's everything. Ultimately, this is another thing I'll say about relationships. We didn't come to the world and the goal is the relationship. We came to the world and the goal is our soul's path and our soul's mission. And there are plenty of relationships that they were totally successful because they became complete. And there's no more to learn from each other. It doesn't mean it's a failure. It means it completed its job on your soul path. But because people don't look at this world through the lens of the soul, they're looking at it through the externals. It's like, oh, that relationship ended. I remember in college when Al Gore was running for president and his wife at the time, they were getting divorced a little bit later, like maybe a couple of years later. And I remember her writing a letter to the New York Times, and it was an opinion piece. It was a column she wrote about how if she would be leaving a job after 40 years, they would give her a plaque, they would give her a party. And she was leaving a 40-year marriage. And she said, why are people not celebrating this amazing marriage? We are friends. We have amazing kids. Look what we created together. Look what we did together. Look who he became. Look who I became. No. Instead, it's like, oh, it's over. And it's like, but look what was not over. Look what actually became, into what came into being. And I remember thinking that is, and she, by the way, I don't know if anyone remembers, Tipper Gore was one of the first people to put mental health on the map. She was campaigning for it and all of that. And I thought that was a really big piece of mental health, to sort of reframe the way we see endings and beginnings, and who's to say, what's a failure, and who's to say what's a success. What are you calling a failure or success? People just staying together if they're miserable, is that a success? Or is the success, how much are they evoking in each other's potential? And I know people who are so comfortable in relationships, and the comfort is they don't treat each other that well. They don't treat themselves that well. They let each other stay in their quote unquote comfort zone where everybody is miserable. And that's not successful, right? And then there are other people who are married forever, and it's beautiful, and it's a gift, and we should be inspired by that. But I think it is interesting to change the way that we look at what success looks like and what the point of the relationship is.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you're talking about this too, because even just the way that you've led your life, and what you're saying now, is we must redefine it in order to give ourselves permission to actually live. And if we're not redefining it, then we're going to stay in that comfortably numb, as Pink Floyd would say, right? We're going to stay in that because that's the conditioned version of success. When in fact, a relationship, if we were to, there's many ways we could define it, but if we were to define it as empowerment, and your life is expanding, like life-giving, your life is expanding because of it. And as you said, it doesn't look like that every minute. It's not supposed to, right? But it's on a whole, then you can feel that too. People want to be guided by their intuition and all that. Like, you can feel if you're in a relationship that's expanding, or you can feel when you're in a dead relationship that is actually just done. And then it's our conditioning that is going to keep us there when it's done, because our soul is saying, hello, knock, 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 we're done, we're done, we're done, right? Which is what you were talking about.
I love what you just said. And I love that word, permission, because I think that is the single greatest thing that's holding everyone back, is they don't feel the permission. I mean, I talk to so many people about, what do you really want? And first of all, people will say, I don't know. Okay. And that's always a lie. So I'll say, you don't know. No, I don't really know. So what's wrong? Well, I just kind of feel meh, it's okay. My job's okay. My relationship's okay. What do you want? I don't know. Then I say to them, okay, what if you had the audacity to know? What might you know? And what I find is the reason people don't know is because they believe one of two lies, which is either it's not possible what I really want, so why would I tell myself what it is, because it's not possible anyway, or I'm not allowed to have it. So the real answer is that it is possible, and you are allowed to have it. And then you start to look at, so really I'm living in a codependent reality. And it usually goes back to codependency. Like, the reason is we don't feel we're allowed to have what we want. And it's really interesting. I was listening to somebody recently, and she's like, I just heard myself say, this is my life. It's actually my life, not hers, not his, mine. It's my life. We really forget that it's our life to live, ours. Like, we are the only one whose life it is. Yes. And we make every decision a conference call. Like, everything is a process. Everybody gets a forum to discuss what is right for us. Makes no sense. And, I remember when I moved out to Los Angeles, my mom, who grew up so frustrated because she's so talented, but she believed she was born, before the women's lib movement really took off. And when she graduated from high school in the 60s, she was told you could be a secretary or a teacher. That's it. Women were not going into, big entrepreneurial careers or following their dreams. And so when I moved out to LA at 23, I remember her screaming at me. I mean, when I say screaming, I mean, it was like Sally Field in a movie where she should have won the Oscar, screaming, like losing her mind, screaming. And I was like, what is wrong with this woman? And she's like, it doesn't happen. It's not going to happen. You're living in an illusion. Nothing's going to happen. You think you're going to go out there. You think anything's going to happen to you. Nothing's going to happen to you. And she was like, and I realized it's because she was so threatened that I was about to go pursue a dream when she never did, and
Mm.
always rationalize it because she didn't feel she could. She didn't feel she was allowed to pursue her dream. So she would just talk herself out of it. It's like that scene in Willy Wonka when Charlie Bucket really wants a golden ticket. He really wants a chocolate bar and they can't afford it. And so he says, Grandpa, I bet the chocolate makes the golden ticket. I bet the golden ticket makes the chocolate taste terrible. Like, it's okay. I don't need to have it. So you talk yourself out of it. You talk yourself out of it because you don't think it's possible and you don't think you're allowed to have it. And the truth of the matter is, when I finally did go to LA and things started to work for me. And I'll say this, it's amazing. When I moved to Los Angeles, having gone through, the amount of emotional trauma in my childhood and the things that had gone on, and also the lack of financial, resource, all of it. When I got to LA, after living in Jerusalem for 3 years and studying mysticism and mindfulness, I was still studying meditation in Los Angeles. And I intentionally, I'm sure you've heard me say this, I would go do things that people thought were ridiculous and totally irresponsible. I used to go to the Peninsula Hotel in Beverly Hills and spend $200 on a massage when I was 23 years old, making $800 a week as some assistant. And I would go to the hotel and my friends were like, why are you doing that? I'm like, because when I go to that spa and I smell the ice wrapped lavender soaked towels and I sit in that environment, I am teaching this is something you said earlier that you were reminding me that I said. You brought it up. I was teaching my nervous system what's familiar. And I was teaching my nervous system, this is what your future feels like. This is what your future feels like. Your future feels like this much ease and beauty and nourishment. And you are going to learn to tolerate that. And you are going to learn that you don't have to be in fight or flight all the time. You are going to learn that your body was meant to be at peace and that you were meant to receive and that you were meant to then be a vessel that can give, right? When it's tuned, it can give. When an instrument is in tune, it gives, right? And so you were meant to flow, be in flow state and feel what this feels like. And so I would go to meditation retreats and I would take myself to massage and whoa, lo and behold, one amazing vibrational match after another, the synchronicities would line up with my capacity to tolerate the next level of expansion. And so there it would happen. Like, next thing I know, I was offered a record deal. Next thing I know, I was offered my own TV show with the Jim Henson Company. Next thing I know, I was like, it's an interesting story how all the things led to what all the things are. And then eventually I started a podcast, which is also interesting because the message in my head, the note I kept getting from God was use your voice, use your voice, use your voice. Yes. And when I initially was using it in music, it always felt like an almost. And then when I eventually started the podcast, it was like, oh, use your voice didn't mean be a rock star. It meant pour into other people what will change their consciousness so that they see themselves. And that totally took off, right? And so it is interesting that sometimes you get an inkling, but you're almost there, right? And then eventually you're like, that was what the inkling was. It was that it all led me to that, right? So 10 years of writing music and like trial and error and, some success and then some goes 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. And then I started the podcast and it took off. But my point is, even being in the room when I started the podcast, I was right away in rooms with really important, quote unquote, we're all important, but meaning successful people. Yeah. And had I not done those years of training my nervous system, I wouldn't have been good at my job because you can't be generous when you're insecure. You can't be good at a podcast. You can't hold space for someone else when you're worried about yourself. You have to be there. You have to be loving and present and attentive. So there's no energy for you to be thinking about your ego and am I okay? And am I an imposter? None of that. So those 10,000 hours, by the time I got to the podcast and I was sitting one-on-one with you, Marianne Williamson, Tony Robbins, Matthew McConaughey, name the person, I knew how to be in the room.
My God, this is like, I mean, if I could just like bottle this and just because literally, okay, so there's like parallel worlds going on here because you described how you did it, which is, I mean, if I had to like sum it up, I would say it's illogical experimentation.
Yeah.
And then when you did go into the experiment, then the difference is you weren't there because you could be in a fancy spa and then you posted, all this shit on social and you're like, hey, look where I am. You weren't there because it was like this like abundant external thing. You were there, but you were present. You were there in the higher sort of vibration, if you will, if we can't even measure this, but you were there because you wanted to actually have it become you, which is very different than someone booking a first class ticket and being like, I'm in for, you know what I'm saying? That you can still do that same thing that you did and not really embody it,
First
which
of
is a
all, I
huge
love
difference.
that you just said that. I love that you just said that. And it's interesting. I just took my daughters to Paris and I had never been to Paris before, which is like, how do you get to 45 and you've never been to Paris? You're in midlife. Like, what? You missed out on Paris? So it was like, it's time to go. So we go to Paris and we did a cooking class. We did a baking class. We did a painting class. We rode bikes. We did kayaking. Why? Because I wanted them to get inside the experience exactly for the reason you just said, is that I know that words don't teach, experience teaches. And you could go to Paris and walk down the street and you could have a croissant and you could go shopping. Okay, great. That's beautiful. But you could still miss the whole thing. But if you garden and you put your hands in the soil and there's like 13 seconds where you just heard a bird chirp and there's sunlight and you smell the soil, your body is inhaling the experience in a different way. It's our actual body. This is what's so interesting. Our soul, we say body, soul, mind, right? Our soul is 100% comfortable because it's always in wholeness. It's never in lack. It's never in fear. It's always it's got wisdom. I know when my dad was in hospice, even though he was clearly sad because he knew he was in hospice, the soul and the conversations we had, there was so much peace and love. Okay. The soul is always, no matter what it is, the soul goes to higher consciousness. But therefore, we can have a whole conversation about what the mind really is, because the mind is actually there just to be an antenna to get the download from your soul. Okay. Like, so really, what are we really talking about? The body. We've got to tell the body that it's safe to be in alignment with your soul instructions. And so what you just said is so important not to miss what you just said. Because there are people who are like, well, I read the book that said fake it till you make it. So I bought a Gucci suit, which I couldn't afford, and maxed out my credit card. And I don't understand. I'm freaking out. Well, that's not exactly it. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's about, you have to tell your body what it feels like. Because why do you want the Gucci suit? Because you think it might make you feel powerful. So now we have to become embodied in what it feels like to be powerful. And we have to tell our body, you can sustain this feeling. That's really what you're after. Now, when you feel that feeling, whatever the equivalent is of the Gucci suit, that'll show up for you. Does that make sense? So, and during the days when I was practicing expanding my capacity to tolerate better, more ease, more joy. I wasn't posting on social media. We didn't have social media. That was 2006, and I knew exactly what I was doing. I knew that I had to get my body out of the past, that my body was addicted to feeling bad and fight or flight and worry and stress, because my mom tried to commit suicide. My father had left. I was living alone a lot of days between middle school and high school, going to visit my mom at this center. It was not good. My body was shot. Like, the nervous system was shot. The circuits were blown. So I was like, okay, I have to take my body on a new regimen. and say, okay, body, this is what it feels like to exhale. This is what, and then all of a sudden because my soul already knew all of it was safe and amazing and in escrow for me. You know, we all have been given a inheritance by our creator.
Mm-hmm.
And the inheritance is love and abundance. We all have it, but we can't always access that escrow account because we don't have the vessel that feels worthy to receive it. And so we just repel it all the time.
Mm.
I mean, even in Paris, so we traveled really well. You know, we did it really well. And we had a driver for 10 days, the same driver. And he was a really handsome guy, like French Moroccan, tall, used to play soccer professionally. And I was like, God, you've got to be kidding me. Like, you're sending this? Like, I got to deal with this now, you know? So like every morning I'd go downstairs with the girls and there he is. And my kids are like, there he is. My kids are laughing. Oh my God. And then he would like hand me a cappuccino and be like, you know, open the door for me. And I was like, okay, this is very interesting because I've been telling myself I really want this masculine, gorgeous, sweet, cool, and I was like feeling that feeling in me going, ooh, what do I need to do to like, you know, really, I don't know, show up here? It's like nothing. You don't need to do anything. Just sit back and say thank you and, you know, just allow this person to serve. And, you know, and it was stretching me. It was a stretch.
That's interesting, isn't it? But perfectly designed. I mean, I feel like, you know, your life, the fact that you've sort of followed the language of the body more than the language of the 3D world, which is a lag effect anyways, you've really, really followed the language of the body. It's no accident, I don't think, that your life has been designed the way that it was. You started with the singing and, you know, your voice, and then you found massive success even in, you know, real estate and all of that. And then you came all circle back around to finding tremendous success using your voice on your podcast. It's like one big full circle that I'm sure that when you look back, you're like, well, this couldn't have been here without this, and this couldn't have been here without this. But you know, what I notice about, you know, cause I've heard you talk about, you know, the specifics of the story, is that what I noticed from you is that you kind of loved all of it though. It wasn't like you were doing it and then waiting for you didn't even know podcast didn't even exist, like you said, but like, it's not like you were waiting. I mean, I love it when you were talking about you were reading the commercial real estate book and then and you're sitting in the restaurant and someone's like, do you work in commercial real estate? I mean, how much closer can you get than that?
That's true. I feel like I say to my kids all the time, you know, they know I'm like, I have no patience. I'm like, if I say I want to get in the car and leave at whatever time, then, oh, she's getting her shoes still. This one's curling her eyelashes. She's 12. She's got to make her eyelashes curl. I'm like, I don't have time for that. Let's go. So I say that because I wouldn't be capable of waiting to feel good. I want to feel good right now. Meaning, I refuse to believe that wherever I am is not exactly where I'm meant to be to have the best time. I refuse to believe that. So wherever I am, no matter what's happening, I'm always like, okay, God, you put me right here in this moment, in this time with this girl or with this person. Or even if I'm at the DMV, I'm like, okay, so was I sent here to pick somebody's day up and make someone smile? Or was I sent here there's going to be a clue, there's going to be some sign, like, and what I'm saying is, yes. So all along the path, no matter where I am, I'm always like, I am meant to squeeze the juice out of this.
Yes.
And that's exactly why I'm here. And then I will know when I'm meant to do the next thing versus being where I am and being really angry and resentful and frustrated that I'm not where the next thing is. Like, where I am is the door. The door to the next thing is right where you are. Right. And that's that story you've heard me tell about. You mentioned a similar story with the real estate thing, but the other story was when I started the podcast and I went to that podcast conference and I didn't have any of my stuff together and everyone was at this networking event. And I turned to my friend and I'm like, this is 2017. I said, why is everyone here? I said, I didn't bring business cards. Like, what is even the point of this networking thing? And she said, well, if you can meet one of the people who's here from Apple Podcasts, you could get featured. I was like, you know what, forget it. I just can't handle this. I didn't bring business cards. I don't like networking energy. It's all fake. I don't like it. So I left the hotel and went to a different hotel like 2 blocks away. And I sat down and ordered an iced tea in the lobby, and the guy's sitting next to me, and I started having a conversation, and we realized we're wearing the same badge. And he says to me, "Were you at the podcast conference?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Me too." He's like, "I hate networking. It's so annoying." I said, "Me too. It's just so inauthentic. It's like everyone's fake and giving you business cards, and I don't even want their business cards." Long story short, we talked for 45 minutes, and then he stood up and said he was the head of Apple Podcasts, and he invited me to the Apple offices. And then on top of it, he hands me his card, and the Apple office is across the street from where my daughter went to kindergarten. And I said, "I've seen that building," and I never knew what the building was because it was in Culver City and it was unmarked because it's very hidden. It's Apple. And they had valet parking. And I remember thinking, why would an office building have valet parking if it's not really cool? Like, because all the cars were always like a Porsche or this or that. And that was Apple. So he's like, "When are you going to be there again?" I'm like, "Tomorrow morning." And he said, "Drop her off and then come have lunch with me." So it was like, it was always right in front of me. You know what I'm saying? So I think I always know that there's the world that we see, which is 1% is what we see with our eyes. And then there's 99% of reality that we don't see with the naked eye, but it's there.
Yeah.
And it's always right here. It's not in the future, and it's not in some other location. It's right here. And so when our perception changes and our vibration changes, it's like a radio that can then tune to a new song. And all of a sudden that song was always available on the radio. You just had to tune the dial differently.
Oh my God, I love this. I love this.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, I could keep talking
Same.
about this. This is just incredible. But I just want to say how I'm just in such appreciation of this conversation. And
I love talking to you, Elizabeth. You're so good at what you do. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, this is part of the magic of it, is that what we do, we get to meet people like we get to meet, right? And that's part of it. And that's kind
Oh,
of
the
like
best.
the shared energy thing. Yeah. So where would people find you?
So I don't know when this is coming out, but I'm doing a 8-day thing that starts June 8th. It's called Born
Mhm.
for This. I'm also always on the podcast, which we now call Everything is Energy, which is so obvious in this conference. It's all about the energy. It's all about
Yes.
how you show up, what you're available for.
Mhm.
And I'm on Instagram posting every day something inspiring at Cathy Heller. That's it.
I love your Instagram. I mean,
Thank
I love
you.
all the stuff that you do, but like I look at your Instagram account and I'm like, God, she just does such a great job with it,
Oh,
right? And
thank
then
you. I
I'm
really
like,
like it. People always talk about
you
social
can
media.
tell.
I just find it to be a place where we can connect with so many amazing people and put beautiful things out there. And I'm very good about not, like, my For You page is hilarious. My kids are like, "Your For You page, like, here's my For You page." It's like cooking videos and Nitos and Michael Jackson. It's like, I don't look at any, I guess the Michael Jackson thing is there because I saw the movie and they know I saw the movie, but
Mm.
it's like, it's fun, meaning I really curate what I look at, and I really curate what I'm saying, so that I'm hopefully
Mhm.
exchanging something that's just really focusing in on the beauty in this world.
Yeah, and thank you for that, because there's a certain level of giving to that. There's a certain level of responsibility that turns into
Thank,
greater giving with that you just said.
thank you, thank you. I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah. All right. Well, this is going to be it's going to go down in history as one of my favorites. So
You're so cute. Oh, and I didn't mention people can buy my book. It's on paperback, it's on hardcover, and I feel like it's like $10 on Amazon, and I think it's a really good read. I think it'll feel really good to read a few pages before you go to sleep at night.
yes, yes, absolutely. And you kind of touched upon a little bit of the concepts even here, this receiving thing,
Yeah,
didn't you?
yeah.
So yeah, so it would be a great way to go even deeper on kind of some of the stuff we talked about. Yay. All right. So thank you for coming on
I
the
loved it.
and for all the listeners, I'll see you on the next episode.